Brittney Sykes goes off, the Tempo crack 100 points for the first time and win their first ever road game. Let's talk about it. So the Toronto Tempo defeat the Los Angeles Sparks 106-96, starting and ending much better than Friday. The Tempo were far more engaged in the paint on both ends of the floor after getting carved up last game, limiting the damage inside against LA. They even generated 18 points off of 14 turnovers to just 8 points off of 12 turnovers the other way. All in all, it was a quality victory with contributions up and down the roster, including Kiki Rice, who chipped in 19 points in her very first WNBA start. But truthfully, it was a bit of a clunky game in terms of game flow and the start and stop nature. Just look at the free throw numbers. The Tempo and Spark combined to take 72 free throws in this game. Neither really got any real pace or momentum going for extended stretches. But if there's a player that thrives in a chippy, grinded-out game, it's Brittney Sykes, a.k.a. Slim, who was spectacular tonight offensively. She finished with a career-high 38 points on 10 of 21 shooting, 15 of 15 from the charity stripe, and becomes just a third player to score at least 38 points with an expansion franchise, joining Cynthia Cooper and Betty Lennox. And what I like most about Slim's game in this one was her offensive process. Compared to some of her previous games, she wasn't commandeering the offense tonight. It was very much playing within the flow of what was being presented to her by the defense and reading and reacting accordingly. Here, she comes off a good screen from Niara Sabally and immediately engages Cameron Brink on the switch. And although Slim isn't able to finish, her pressure occupies Cameron Brink, and that leaves Niara open to clean up the miss for an easy score. Earlier in the game, you see her, she's above the break, handling out of this Horns-esque configuration. She comes off the screen, takes a beat for Tiani Key to occupy Cameron Brink. She snakes inside and attacks Ray Burrell, who's playing off a little bit because she was dealing with foul trouble all night, so it's good recognition by Slim. Here, this is just great athleticism. Slim forces Chance Gray to flip her hips and try to keep up. You can see why Slim was voted the #1 athlete by GMs in the WNBA. It's a great change of speed. She takes the contact, doesn't settle, and is able to finish up close. Again, this is just some very heads-up veteran play by Slim. She directs Kiki to clear out to the weak side corner. As she does, Maria Conde floats down, and Slim attacks. It puts the Sparks into rotation, and with all due respect to Kelsey Plum, but she's no rim protector, and this ends up as an easy layup for Slim. Here, you see her utility off the ball. This small hezzy freezes Erica Wheeler, and she slips right to the basket. Slim finished 6 of 7 at the rim, and she did it in a variety of ways, both on and off the ball, and you can see the value of Slim coming from teams where she wasn't the main option. She learned to be impactful even when the ball wasn't in her hands. This was one of the biggest buckets and moments of the game. The Tempo are up 6 and leaking oil at this point. Slim is able to curl off this Maria Conde screen and changes up speed so well. The little D-cell is able to freeze Ray Burrell, and then she just bursts to the basket for the and one. The Tempo gets a much needed breathing room, and Ray Burrell fouls out of the game in the process. And Slim was able to also leverage that paint pressure to create for others. A couple minutes earlier, you see Slim here work up the middle of the floor, and she's able to get this kick-out pass to Marina, essentially because Ray Burrell is caught ball watching and trying to float towards Slim and provide some resistance. Now, it's not exactly an open look, but for Marina, it's more than enough room. And here, if you go back to the third quarter, you have Slim driving deep into the paint, a little Euro step and pass to Niara, who's cutting baseline from the opposite direction. It makes the Sparks defense start to scramble and crack, and you see Kiki Rice, she gets an open look up close just because of that pressure that started with Slim's drive. And we'll have more on Kiki Rice in a little bit here too. But this was my favorite play from Slim given the context of the game and her execution. She works this pick and roll with Tiani Key, attacks the Erica Hamby on the switch, doesn't even give her a second, and you can see Slim here literally put her head down and drive through baseline. Again, the pressure forces LA into rotation. Kate Martin jumps in. Maria Conde with a nice recognition on the 45 cut comes in from behind, and Slim makes a great read for the easy layup up close, and it essentially seals the game here with the basket, given the timing. With Julie Allemand out of this game due to injury, the Tempo needed Slim to be both a scorer and a playmaker, and I felt she toggled that switch really well in terms of being very intentional and consistent along the way in terms of when to pass, when to attack, but all while still maintaining the habit of getting downhill, generating deep paint touches, and allowing that to unlock a lot of what she was trying to accomplish. Now, someone who was a benefactor of a lot of that pressure that Slim was applying was Kiki Rice, who in her first start was able to generate a lot of positive outcomes. Now, I still believe Kiki Rice's best skill in the pros right now is her ability to execute on these north-south drives, just truthfully knifing up the lane. She's shown keen instincts of when to speed up, when to slow down, all while navigating through the contact. You see it here, again, it's in semi-transition. She catches Deherika Hamby flat-footed. Above the break, she recognizes there's no rim protector. Again, this is a benefit of the 5-out style that Sandy likes. You have Mariela Fasula occupying Cameron Brink in the corner, and it's another and one off a straight line drive for Kiki Rice. But also, the more she builds her confidence in between, the better. Like here, really simple, just a very nice pull-up midi off a strong screen from Niara. Smooth execution, zero hesitation. Now, if I had to nitpick, I believe the playmaking aspect is where I want to see Kiki Rice continue to build that confidence. She found some windows in this game, but also missed a couple of passing windows as well. And I think that will come with time, but as the point guard of the future, it is something I do want to keep an eye on. Here, she does well to recognize Kia getting open off the slip, feeds it to her for the open three. Again, good execution, no problems with this. But I'll use this play as an example where Slim, like she did all game, gets deep into the paint. She kicks it out to Kiki on the wing. Now here I believe the pass to Maria Conde in the right corner is the right play to make in my opinion. But look, Kiki does make up for it with some individual execution. She gets the step back three to fall. She even hits a celly after. The confidence is clearly showing here. Now in this play here, Kiki and Tiani Key do well to make that overhead pass for the Sparks difficult. They force a turnover, running up the floor. I do believe that first pass to Marina Mabry from Kiki is there right away. She hesitates to pick up her dribble though, and to her credit, she makes up for it by immediately finding Laura cutting right behind for the finish as well. But again, truthfully, I am nitpicking at that point. I did want to try to point out as many observations as I can coming out of this, but I think Slim did say it best. Kiki is playing without any fear early on, and you kind of saw it in this game too, where given the fact that it was her first start, it was in LA where she's a bit of a known commodity, so obviously there can be some pressure with that. She's doing it opposite players like Erica Wheeler and Kelsey Plum, and for her to not only come into this game and play without fear like she did, but step up and contribute along the way, I think it really speaks to the poise and maturity of a player like Kiki Rice, and I think it's going to be exciting to see that continue to develop. But the place I do want to wrap this up with is obviously going back to Slim and the type of game she had. And the part that was really telling for me in her post-game press conference was her talking about the opportunity and using the phrase green light with Toronto. I think that speaks to more than just things like shot quality and shot diet. I think it speaks to the fact that in previous stops, she had to play a role on teams. But with the tempo, she gets to play multiple roles, and that's the benefit of playing for an expansion franchise. You kind of have no choice but to wear multiple hats, especially as one of the top players on the team. And I think that's a place where Slim really thrives in, is kind of being a versatile, kind of relying on her athleticism, being able to do multiple things. And you saw it in this game, again, toggling between scoring, toggling between playmaking, and trying to just provide an abundance of positive impacts on this team. And I don't mean to shamelessly plug my work here, but if you are interested in understanding more about Slim, her story through 10 years in the WNBA, and how that's led her towards leadership for the Tempo, I did have the opportunity to sit down with her and talk one-on-one about that journey and how she's been able to develop as a leader. It was a very fun conversation. She's super charismatic. So again, I highly do recommend checking out if you are interested. I'll link it down in the description. It'll also be at raptorsrepublic.com for you to check out. But yeah, all in all, I think it was a great win for the Raptors, obviously, given an awesome performance from Slim. It was a weird game overall, like I mentioned earlier, a little clunky, given the whistles and the free throws of it all. Like, I think the third quarter ended up being 35 minutes of real time compared to the first half, which was a total of 51 minutes. So clearly you can tell the third quarter dragged on a bit. But like I said, if there's a player that can kind of thrive in that chippy environment, it is somebody like Brittney Sykes, and she showed it in this game. But overall, I think the Tempo come out of this with a quality win. They're 1-1 on their road trip so far, a couple games to go, so it'll be interesting to see how that is. But so far, I feel pretty optimistic. Like I did coming out of the last game, they responded very well, especially Slim. But for now, that'll do it for me. As always, thank you to everyone who tuned in, and if you got to this point of the video, I really appreciate it. Please leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and if you have any thoughts on the Tempo's 106-96 win, sound off below, and don't forget to subscribe to Raptors Republic for more Tempo content all season. But until next time, I'm Zulfi Sheikh. Stay blessed. Peace.